Well, Sean, thanks for sitting down with us today.
Of course,
Songs
yeah.
sound really good. It's been really fun. And you're the first one to use
the space.
what's going to be one of our, really common used spaces here
Yeah.
for these types of videos. This is here at our office, which is really fun.
It's very cool.
Came out for the day. It's been fun hanging. Okay, so full record, Basic Faith is out.
Full length, 12 songs.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
it.
It's
just like
time.
the old days.
That's right,
12
yeah.
songs. Let's go. Tell me about writing the record, the season of
Yeah.
your life that you kind of walk through to get to
Whoa.
some of these statements of faith.
Okay. This is a lot. I spent probably 2 years on the project. Kind of a wild 2 years for everybody the past couple years. I have a hard time condensing my thoughts. So I usually start with I think kind of a phrase that is an umbrella for all the micro themes. And it's something like, Jesus came to do more than get us into heaven. He came to get heaven into us.
Yep.
So many of the songs, in one way or another, that's kind of the thread. What is the intersection of life and God? Well, it's faith. Like, faith is the thing that stitches us together. But what does that look like? Not just in the spectacle, but in the everyday.
Yeah.
You know, that's where we spend most of our time.
Yep.
God has got to be found there. So, yeah, a lot of the songs are just trying to tease that out. Think about that. Come
Yep.
at it from a couple different angles. Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah.
And the title track, Basic Faith,
Yep.
I love that you tie in faith and because we can often separate faith and praise.
We can. Yes.
But I love that you've tied in like that daily action of trust into praise.
Trust is a great word. That song is kind of a personal song for me because I've crossed over this threshold. I've thought about it so much over the past few years where I've actually been walking with the Lord for a lot longer now than I haven't been, And so we have all this history together. And there's most certainly, there are things about my life that have deepened in wisdom and spirit and truth and, hopefully a little maturity.
Cool.
But there are a great many other things that I've overcomplicated, and maybe I've grabbed back into my own hands as if they belong there instead of the Lord's. Or I just think in many ways as we grow older, we grow out of things that maybe we shouldn't. Things like trust.
Yep.
Things like wonder, and because faith is about open hands.
Yep.
And faith isn't about knowing what's around every corner. It's about trusting the one who's leading us.
Yeah.
And so to me, this is a song that a good faith song should meet you where you are. And maybe for some people, it's going to nudge them forward. But maybe for someone like me, it's going to help pull you home,
It's challenging too, man.
Yeah.
I think really what's the line? When did I stop seeing angels?
That
Is that the line?
That messes me up.
Oh my gosh, man. Hearing that too, I immediately thought of my kids.
Yes.
And we'll have these conversations with them where they'll be in the backseat of the car.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden they're just like, God just said this to me.
Yeah.
I saw a vision of this. And I'm like, that's the faith I want. In fact,
I'll start crying.
We told our daughter, man, just the other day, like, I was like, I want faith like you have.
Yeah.
And she was so like confused by that, taken back by it. She goes, wait, what do you mean?
Yeah.
You have a trust in God that you said it so well. We overcomplicate it. And we forget that wonder.
I think, because I have 2 daughters now too.
Yeah.
And they've been teaching me a lot. I've used this sort of thought experiment for pretty much all the songs where whatever the topic is, you just throw it into this imaginary conversation between me and my younger self, And a lot of times when that's framed, it's framed like if you could teach your younger self one thing, what would it be?
Yeah.
And that's really valuable. But oftentimes what has happened to me is something of the opposite. And to me that it has a lot to do with the journey of becoming, the journey of faith. I kind of think about it like an upward spiral,
Yep.
You're always moving up, you're always moving forward, but you have to revisit things.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
You
good.
have to relearn things.
Yep.
And sometimes you might see, maybe like my younger self has been teaching me that maybe I let go of a few things that I shouldn't have. Or maybe I'm now able to see them with maybe a different perspective. You're always becoming, but there can be a return that is necessary. And yeah, it's a wild ride, you know. Real faith takes a lifetime, I think.
It does.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's talk about same Jesus.
It's a good one.
It is,
It's a fast song.
it is
We need
a
praise
great
songs.
fast song with a ton of depth.
Yeah.
I think,
Okay.
yeah, you can do it as the song. You can do it, first song of the set. You can do it the last song of the set.
Yeah.
It's great. But it also, another song that I think is really challenging. And I love I love that your verses have a challenging aspect to them.
Yeah.
And then they point back to these moments of praise.
Yeah.
But with Same Jesus, I think what was so challenging for me is we can often, I think, in our modern Christianity, feel like we're the first ones experiencing the pain
it's
and
such a
suffering
normal
or
reaction.
tribulation that we're experiencing globally. And this song points us back to the consistency of Jesus, who he is.
Yes. That's a great word for the song. I feel like it's about the consistency of God. It's about the provision of God.
Yeah.
You know, and all too often, those things are obvious. If we look at the arc of Scripture, those are some of the main themes. Like
Yep.
God is tapping us on the shoulder and saying, I've got this,
Yep.
right? But if you zoom in too far, which is what we do a lot of the time, things get really pixelated, and all of a sudden you just have no idea what you're looking at.
Yep.
Like you don't have perspective.
Yeah.
And I felt that in some of these years. I feel like there's something cultural that is happening to us too, where we can get lost in that.
Yep.
And it really creates room for fear to put its hands on the steering wheel.
Yep.
And if we can zoom out, if we
Absolutely.
can remember the promises of God, if we can remember the testimony that he's given us, because we are living in a little bit of the messy middle,
Yep.
but we have the history,
Yep.
and he's told us how it's all going to end.
Yeah.
And these are massive anchors of faith that if we sing them, hopefully at its best, what happens is we start to believe them maybe again.
Yeah.
And then we start to live them. And, you know, when the people of God actually live like we trust God, it starts to look like the kingdom.
Yep.
I mean, so I like singing this song because it does something to my soul that's really
Oh,
important.
same.
And faith
Same.
can rush in, you know?
Yeah, because I'm thinking like it doesn't matter the age group or generation that you're a part of.
Yep.
You know, I look at people my parents' age, and there's a lot of fear.
Yes.
You know, around whatever it may be, the future of the country they live in, or the future of the status of the world.
Yeah.
Our younger generation, like we're in our 30s, and man, you wake up every day and you're just like, can I go get groceries and can I
It's
afford
messy.
to buy a house? You know,
Yes. Yes.
it's a wild time that we live in. So no matter what generation we're a part of, I think we're feeling it at every level.
Yep.
And then I love it. It's verse 2. You say these are the days that we should dream of.
Yeah.
That's wild.
That'll
you know, to
make
talk
you-
about like, hey, here's the hard stuff we're going through, and then by the way,
Yeah.
we should be dreaming about this.
Yeah.
To where we can see salvation happen in
Yeah,
people.
now's
And-
the time.
Yep.
That's where there's always opportunity. The opportunity of God sits right underneath the surface. And it beckons us,
Man, that's so good.
you know? And so if we start to believe it and
said
stare
that-
a little longer.
You said the opportunity of God sits right beneath the surface?
Yeah.
That's
It's
so
just right
good,
there
man.
whispering for us
Yep.
to say, hey, like, wake up, you know? These are the you're not just walking around these days. I've
No.
designed you and destined you to walk these days. Wake up,
Yep.
you know? And remember that in many ways, darkness and evil, and in the schemes of evil, it has taken different forms over the course of history. That's true and fine. But it's just no match for the glorious light of God. Like
Yep.
the darkness cannot overcome it.
Yeah, it's so good.
Just cannot, you know?
Yep.
I know, it's I've when I've talking to some of my, I'm just around younger people these days, and
Yeah.
I've talked about it like the wild cards in Uno. You know,
Yep.
it's a couple of God holds all those cards because like
Yeah.
when you have that card, it just you win.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you can't do anything about it, and I
Yeah.
feel like
That's so good.
we should. There's a posture of and a stability
Mm-hmm.
about that. That's the kind of God I want to be led by.
Yep.
But it doesn't eliminate mystery. It's again like because faith isn't really about certainty, and sometimes we conflate those two ideas. It's really natural to, but that's an impulse of fear
Yep.
because the more certainty you have, the less faith you need.
Yep.
Like God wants us to trust Him, and He's given us enough of the view
Yep.
to earn that from us, and we know where we come from, we know where we're going.
Yep.
Like, I think that should be enough
Yeah.
to give us the confidence to take it a step at a time and follow the King. And
So good, man.
we'll sing about it.
Yeah. I love it. All right. Last question.
Okay.
For any of the worship leaders tuning into this, if you could give one piece of advice to people who are leading at their churches every Sunday, in and out, doesn't have to be one thing, could be two. What encouragement would you give?
Whoa. Okay. I don't know if this is the best thing to say, but it's the first thing that came to mind. I would say, in every sense of this phrase, it's really important to tell the truth.
So good.
Tell the truth in songwriting. Be awakened and sensitive to the truth in how people come into the space, how they relate to God. I think that's something that we really overlook, because part of our role is to steward the presence of God in with a lot of graciousness.
Yep.
And I've learned this so much more since I've become a dad. It's actually really hard work just to get there, because their 3-year-old had a temper tantrum because his
Yep.
favorite socks were dirty.
Yep.
And they just got here, and so I think I've tried to take a posture of building bridges, allowing there to be space and sensitivity for God to put His hands around His people,
Yep.
for us to remember that God's presence is meant to be enjoyed.
Yeah.
And so I'll just say that requires a vulnerability and a truth seeing and seeking. That's really important.
Yeah. Dude, that's so good. That's powerful.
Yeah.
I think something we all need to hear too. Well, man, thanks for sitting down with us. Really
course.
appreciate it. I'm so excited for these songs. I think they're fantastic. I'm ready to lead Same Jesus today.
Good. Yeah, me too.
So good. Well, man, thanks for being here.
Loved it.